Good afternoon, everybody. So it was 70 degrees yesterday. Today it's 40 something. But I'm going to sit out here and dressed up and enjoy this fall weather. It's lovely fall weather. I hope you are too, getting an opportunity to get outside and so forth. So we continue with the Gītā, and today we are doing chapter 10 and 11. Hope you all felt okay about the quiz. Honestly, you can, look me in the eye, look Laura in the eye. We did everything we possibly could to make this as easy as we could, fair, covering the material, but as easy as possible. If you've been attending the review sessions, you should have had no problem because all the material on the quiz was discussed in the review sessions. So I hope you feel good about it and hope you feel it was fair. Certainly, you've been doing the reading and you have to be fair and honest as well with yourselves, whether you have been keeping up. But if you have, and you've been attending the review sessions and taking advantage of Laurie, I'm sure that I would like to think that you feel very good about things and you're comfortable with your performance. So let's bring up chapter 10. There it is, and onward we go. So we have, it's 20 minutes past 1, so 2:20, 2:40. Chapter 10 is when we stop. Okay. Krishna Bhagavan said, "O Arjuna, listen again to my supreme words, which I shall speak for your benefit, and which will give you great joy." Well, I would imagine it would give you great joy. God is going to directly teach you. What could be better than that about the ultimate truths of reality? And what could one hope for more than that? I mean, if one is any kind of if one has any interest in ultimate truths, there Krishna is standing on the chariot with his beloved Arjuna, his great devotee, great friend. And in this incarnation, they're cousins. Neither the host of gods, remember the celestials that Mimamsa ritualism is directed to, nor the great seers, the rishis. The great rishi is a name for a seer, the Vedic seers. No one knows my origin. No one knows the origin of God, not even the greatest sages. For in all respects, I am the source of both the gods and the great seers. How can they know me? I'm their source. They came after me. They are part of the creation, part of my creation. They're just forms of life into which souls are injected. And, great souls that have done a lot of, great practice and spiritual, cultivated spiritual insight. They get the bodies of sages and gods, but that comes after God. God with a big G. These are gods with a little g, remember, celestial beings. So one who knows me as the unborn never takes birth. Without beginning, same thing, anadi. And there's some footnotes here, by the way. So the good thing about this is he's featuring Ramanuja, who is a theist, because the Gītā is much more theistic. There's nowhere in the Gītā does it say what Shankara wants it to say, which is that the world is unreal and the souls merge into Brahman. For the most part, there are one or two verses that are favorable to Shankara's monism. Of course, in the Upanishads, he has an easier time with the Chandogya Upanishad and the rivers merging into the sea, but this is very theistic, it's bhakti. So Ramanuja in the 11th, 12th century, I think, is a much better lens for us to adopt. If we want to get, in my opinion, obviously scholars will disagree, and obviously Advaita Vedanta scholars will disagree, but in my opinion, and you can cultivate your own opinions, the Gītā is definitely theistic, definitely God with a big G, and we'll see some of those verses. Krishna says, I'm the basis of Brahman, not that I'm somehow some lower level conventional reality, Brahman. I am the source of all forms of Brahman, and we'll see that in chapter 14. So, so those who know this, as the great Lord of the world, Maheshwara, right here, see that? Maheshwara, the Ishvara with the Maha, great Ishvara. I am the Ishvara. Understand that reasoning, knowledge, freedom from delusion, all these good qualities, good sattvic qualities, good qualities of the sages and the wise, knowledge, freedom from delusion, patience, truth, self-control, peace, happiness, distress, and all of this, birth, death, fear, as well as fearlessness, non-violence are good and bad things. Also fear is there. Equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy, they all arise from me, all qualities whatsoever, good or bad. The seven great seers as well as the four ancient progenitors of mankind, right? The original celestials that sort of were the, that created the original forms of the universe. In the sort of Hindu understanding of creation, Brahma with a long A. We don't need to get into that, but these are the progenitors. Let's not get sidetracked by Puranic legendary narrative. Let's stick with the philosophy because we're doing Ishvara. They arise from my being. They spring from my mind, right? Ishvara wills, and it's not that they spring out of his head, but Ishvara wills, as the Ishvara is the intelligent. Remember, the intelligent cause of all creation, simply by willing. Remember the arguments, oh, he needs a body. Oh, how is he going to create without a body, right? You create something, you need bodies, you need instruments. And Nyaya says, no, you don't. You just need, not in the case of Ishvara, you don't. It's a special kind of producer, special kind of creator, doesn't depend on a body. You can create from will. So here Gītā is saying something like that. They spring from my mind, from my will, and all beings in this world descend from them, from the progenitors. Let's not worry about Indian creation stories. Let's stick with the philosophy of Ishvara. One who truly understands my greatness and mystic power, right? Because even the yogis, like you like a regular yogi, like you and I could become, they have powers, siddhis, mystic powers. Well, who's more powerful than Ishvara? They can create a whole universe. How about that? No yogi can do that. The Vedanta Sutra says that in chapter 4. Yogis can't do that. So, I am. Where are we? Something about. Oh, here we are. One who truly my greatness and mystic power, understanding the omnipotence essentially of God, is united with me through steadfast yoga. Mind is absorbed in God, understanding Him to be the supreme being. Of this, there's no doubt. I'm the source of all creation. That's what an Ishvara tradition states. That there's an Ishvara as a source of creation. That creation doesn't create itself. It doesn't have some inherent tendency within it to create. And if you say that it does, then what is that? Where does that inherent tendency come from? And why wouldn't it always be creating if it was inherent? I mean, the sun is always shining because it has inherent light and heat. So if there was inherent creativity in matter, it would always be creating. It wouldn't be like a beginning, Big Bang, and then creation. There would be an eternal sort of prakriti that was eternally creating, if creativity was a quality of inherent in Brahman. So I am the source of all creation. From me, all things come to be. Everything comes from Bhagavad, from God. And knowing this, the wise, who are saturated with love, not just knowledge, to approach God, bhajanti mam. Bhava samanvitaha. Bhava is love. The wise are saturated with bhav, not just knowledge of God, but they become affectionate to God by constantly meditating on Him, by hearing the stories of God, which we're doing in our other course this semester. And if anybody wants to access those recordings, you can do so. Just drop me an email and you can access the classes that we've been recording on Krishna. Ishvara as Krishna. Here we have Ishvara also as Krishna in the Gītā, but as teacher. How about baby Krishna? How about little Krishna being a mischievous, playful little child, hiding His majesty? That Krishna, which is really the Krishna of Bhav, the word here, Bhava Samanvita, love. That's the Krishna of Krishna's devotion. So what do they do? Those who love God. What do you do if you love someone? Well, your thoughts are focused on me. Their lives are dedicated to me. They find satisfaction and joy enlightening one another and forever conversing about me. But even in our mundane world, I think Krishna theologians, probably any theologian would say, the highest type of love we find in this world is the mother to the child, little child, right? Child is a dependent. So what do the mothers do? Well, they're always thinking of their little babies, and they dedicate their lives to their babies, exactly what's written here. And they find satisfaction and joy talking with other mothers about their little antics the babies get up to. So if that's the case in the mundane, in the highest form of mundane love, right? Because a mother to a child is much higher than any other kinds of love, because other kinds of love can be broken. A husband and wife, lover and the beloved. And, you know, the mother and the child, it can, in principle, it can be broken. That's very rare. You meet mothers that, you know, their kids are like mass murderers, right? They grow up and they become mass murderers, and the mothers are still, whoa, it's so nice. He didn't mean it, you know. They come up with some way of explaining it. Their love doesn't allow them to see their child in that way. The whole society is going like, oh, this guy's a mass murderer. And the mother's like, oh, he fell under some bad influences, not his fault. He came under, they create some story to kind of just be able to continue loving that child in any circumstance. So that's love, love of. So if that's a mundane love, divine love is obviously much more intense than that. So what do the great bhaktas do? Right here, their thoughts are focused on God. Their lives are dedicated to me, Krishna says. They find satisfaction and joy enlightening one another, always talking about God and forever conversing about me. Everything else is a waste of time, talking about other things, the trivial, silly little things like the weather, like I started in the class with the weather. To those who are ever resolute, minds are fixed in this way, who worship me with love, right? Bhakti, there it is again down here. Bhajatam, priti, the word here is priti purvaka, priti, right? That's now become a girl's name. Maybe someone even in your class, maybe someone's called priti. That means love. It's a beautiful term for love. To worship me with love. Krishna says, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. Krishna will give that. We seek God. God will give us the knowledge, the means, the process, the path. We don't have to go running around seeking it. I give them. Tesham shatata yuktanam. Beautiful word. Bhajatam priti purvakam. Tatami buddhi yogam tam. I give them buddhi yogam. I give the intelligence. Yena mamupayanti me, by which they can come to me. Isn't that nice? I am situated in the innermost being, and out of compassion for them. So Ishvara, God is next to the Atman, pervades the Atman. Ramanuja calls it Antaryami, just like Atman pervades the body. But then there is another Atman, according to the theistic Vedanta, Ramanuja Vedanta, not Shankara. No, Shankara, there's only one Brahman. We know that. We're going with Ramanuja now. Remember, this in the lens we're going to use for the Gītā. There's another Atman, Parama Atma, Antaryami, that pervades even the Atman, pervades everything, and therefore, if that's the case, situated in the innermost being, even right, Nashayam Atma Bhavasto. Situated within the minds, Atma Bhava, you can translate that in many ways. All right. Out of compassion for them, Tesam eva anukampa artam, I destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance, Krishna says. And then Arjuna says, you are the supreme Brahman. Remember Shankara, you are Param Brahman. Shankara says there's two Brahman, there's the sort of higher ultimate Brahman, and there's conventional Brahman, which is ultimately illusory. We've discussed this so many times. It's okay to repeat. Vyavaharika, lower, like a mirage. Paramartika, there's only Brahman. Krishna, Arjuna says, you, Krishna, just the individual, the personal Ishvara, is not illusion. It's not the lower Brahman. It's the Param Brahman, the highest Brahman. So this is theism. This is why I say it lends itself much more to Ramanuja's way of thinking. You're the highest abode, Param Dhamam, the most pure one. You're the ultimate person, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam. You're a Purusha, you're a conscious being, but different from all the other little Purushas like you and I, because you're the cause of everything, the ultimate person. You're the eternal and divine, the primal God, the unborn Lord. All the sages, including Narad, and he says, I'm not just saying this, he says, all the great spokespeople of Hinduism, Narad, the great sage, Asita Deva Vyas, who wrote the whole, who composed the Mahabharata, divided the Vedas, and wrote them, according to tradition, even wrote the Vedanta Sutras. He says it, they all declare this of you, and now you directly proclaim this to me. This is God right here amongst mankind, announcing his supremacy. And Arjuna confirming it. O Keshava, O Bhagavan, Keshava, this is the name of Krishna. I hold to be true all that you tell me. Even the gods and demons fail to understand your nature. Even the most intelligent beings gods or demons, with a small g. Remember, small g, celestial. I know I've said it before, saying it again. Ishvara, God with a big G. Okay, so these gods are not of the celestials. O highest person, Purushottama, resting place of all beings, God of gods. You see, with capital G, you're the big one God of the little gods, Lord of the world, right? But probably find Ishvara mentioned in that verse. Let's have a look. Bhutesha, not Ishvara, but Esha, another form of Ishvara down here. Bhuta, Esha. Esha is the shortened form of Ishvara, sort of. You alone are yourself. You alone know yourself. Nobody else can know God. God can only know his own being. Please declare fully your divine wonders by which you pervade and abide in all the world. So Arjuna wants to tell me more about your wonders. And so Krishna says, no, Arjuna is still here. Oh, mystic one, right? How am I to understand you, O blessed Lord? In what forms am I to think of you? How do we think of God? Just some vague concept, some abstract sort of thought, word, verbal image of God, not even an image, just a sort of a concept. There is a God. Is that it? Is that what theism is? Not in the Indian traditions. Forms, it assumes beautiful forms that the mind can contemplate and behold and become enamored of. What forms am I to think of you? O Janardana, please again describe in detail your mystic wonder. What would be the term for that? Yoga vibhutim, your splendors of God, the vibhuti, the powers. I'm never satiated hearing such nectar. The bhakta is never satiated with hearing about Bhagavad. So Krishna answers, okay. Arjuna asked him, tell me about your glories. And Krishna says, okay, oh, best of Kurus, I'll tell you then, if you're asked of my divine wonders, but only of those which are prominent. But there's no limit to my splendor. I can only tell you that. I'll hit a few high points. Let's see where he goes. Oh, sleepless one. Why is he a sleepless one? Where's the Sanskrit? Sleepless one. Udakesha, Sarabhusha. It's interesting. You translate it as sleepless one. Udakesha. Okay, I'll look that up later. I am the soul situated in the heart of all. Because remember, the souls are supported. In that sense, everything is God. There's just differences within that totality that is God, the world, the souls, and God. There are distinctions in Ramanuja. They don't merge into one. They're eternal distinctions. But that means Krishna is also Prakriti, the world, and also the soul. So I'm the soul situated in the heart of all. I'm the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. I'm the of the Aditya. These are just celestial beings. Great, powerful celestial. Don't worry about it. I am, we can skip this. Of luminaries, I am the radiant sun. I'll skip the names. I am the moon, okay, because you won't know who they are. Just know that they're great sages or celestial beings. I am the moon amongst lunar mansions. Of the Vedas, I am the Samaveda, put into beautiful meter, composed in metrics. Of gods, I'm Indra, the chief celestial. Of senses, I'm the mind, right? Because all of the senses, it's 5 senses, but each sense only deals with one type of, can only perceive one quality. I can only perceive form. I can't hear or smell, and the nose can only smell, and so on. But the mind controls all of them, knows all of them, and organizes all of them. So it's also a sense, it's the internal sense. Of senses, I am the mind. I am the consciousness in all beings. Of Rudras, I'm Shiva. These are just other kinds of beings. I'm gonna go on. Let's go. Of mountain peaks, I'm Meru, the legendary mountain in the Himalayas with a peak of gold. If you're looking for it, make sure you dress up warm because it's very cold up there. But there's Mount Meru in Hindu legend, mountain with a peak of gold. And he goes on. Of bodies of water, I'm the ocean. I'm skipping the names because you won't know these sages. Of utterances, of phonemes, of sound that comes out of one's mouth, an utterance. I am the single syllable Om. Remember Patanjali, Ishwara's Om. The Upanishads, Ishwara's Om. I am the sacrifice of chanting among sacrifices. In other words, of sacrifices, I am, what's the Sanskrit, 25. I think this is the one. Yagyanam, Japa Yagno. Remember Japa? You silently repeat the mantra. I am the japa. and I am in the Himalayas of the mountain ranges. So in other words, he's the greatest of any category of what's going on here. Of all categories of things, he is the most excellent thing in each and every category. So of all mountain ranges in the world, they've got the Alps and you've got various mountain ranges. The Himalayas are the greatest. Well, at least if you're Indian, you would think, so you would say that, but they, I mean, they are right. The Himalayas, Everest and all that. Among trees, I'm the banyan tree. The banyan tree, its branches sink down to the ground, and then they go into the ground, form roots, and then they become additional trunks, and that can go on for miles. So there, I think there's one banyan tree. I mean, the circumference is, I don't know about miles, but I mean hundreds. I mean, they're huge. They cover vast areas. Okay. All right. So all of these, and of men, I am the king. Who's the most powerful person in a pre-modern society would be the king or the queen. The thunderbolt of weapons, I am thunderbolts, and so on. And you won't know all of these. Of beasts, I am the lion, verse 30. Of birds, I am the eagle, the son of Vinata, Garuda, the carrier of Vishnu. Among purifiers, the wind. It's interesting. He's saying the wind is more purifying than fire or water. That's an interesting thing to think about. Of the aquatics, the shark, and the rivers, the Ganga. I don't know if Londoners would agree with that. They probably put their vote for the Thames, and I'm not sure everybody would put a vote in for their local river. But the Ganga shows up in the Himalayas, comes out of the Himalayas and rushes down and crosses India right across the entire width of the subcontinent and goes into the ocean in the Bay of Bengal. Pretty cool river. And you could go up there and swim up in Rishikesh, which has now become a yoga capital of the world, by the way, just recently, the last 20 years. Full of Westerners with their yoga mats, Rishikesh, up in the foothills of the Himalayas. So now it's become a bit of a commercialized yoga hub for Western spiritual seekers. Beautiful little hill town. Of course, now it's all changed because of the commercialization of yoga. But there was a time it was just just ashrams and holy people living there. Okay, of sciences, I am the science of the soul, Atma Vidya. What is the highest science, right? This biology, chemistry, all of that. What's the highest? The science that, well, we know ourselves, right? The very self that is seeking knowledge through these other sciences. Well, what about the science of that self? And of those who speak, I'm speech. Of syllables, I'm just as we have A is the first letter of our alphabet, is the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet. They have two A's, long and short, and then they have all the vowels. In English, you mix the vowels in A, B, C, D, E, and then E comes a few letters later. But in Sanskrit, you get the vowels come first on the alphabet, E, U, like that. And okay, indeed, I'm indestructible time as well. Okay, he's a time. I am death that steals away all things. And I'm the source of all things to be. Of things feminine, I'm fame. Look, these are all feminine nouns, by the way. People sometimes look at them nouns and say, what does this tell us about the kind of gender orientations of ancient Indians, which is a silly thing to do. Sometimes people do that, but look at all these nice things that are feminine. Fame, opulence, that's Shri, goddess Lakshmi, Shri, fine speech. It's feminine. Memory, Smriti. Vak, fine speech is Vak, it's feminine, noun. Intellect, Buddhi, about that. Firmness, Dhriti. And patience, what's patience? Patience would be Dhiraj, probably a different word for it here. Where are we? 34. Smriti, Medha, Dhriti, Kshama, patience. Or you could also have forgiveness for Kshama. And again, it's the second time he says this. Amongst hymns, he said it before, amongst Vedas, he's the Sama. Now he says amongst hymns, I'm the Sama. And then what about meters, right? Agni Hele, up, down, middle, There's different meters. Like the Gītā is Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveta, Yuyutsavaha, Mamekam Pandavaschaiva, Kim Kurvati Sanjaya. That's the first verse of the Gītā. So these are meters, what is the best of all meters? And Krishna says, well, I'm the Brihat Sama of meters. Oh, I'm sorry. Amongst hymns, I am the Brihat Sama. Of meters, I am Gayatri, which is now online, but never supposed to be uttered aloud. But now, of course, you can just download it from the web. But it's the Brahmin Gayatri mantra. Of months, I am Marga Shirsha, which is spring, isn't it? Let me see. Down the bottom here. Moon is full. Oh, November, December. Take that back. So for whatever reason, that's considered the most auspicious. And of seasons, I am spring. Seasons, I am flower-bearing spring. Spring, flowers come out. Who's the greatest of the cheaters? Gambling, right? Because in gambling, you cheat, but you actually follow the rules. You're not, you actually are stealing someone's possessions kind of legally because you know how to gamble, right? Because you could weight the dice, like that's what started the whole Mahabharata war. That's why the Gītā is being spoken on a battlefield. But that's why there's a battle in the first place, because the Pandavas were cheated through gambling by an expert, a Shakuni, an expert dice thrower, but he weighted the dice. But even if you didn't do that, if you're an expert gambler, you cheat others of their money, but without cheating, just by the expertise in the art of gambling. And he goes on, all things splendorous, I'm splendor, I'm victory, I'm adventure, I'm vitality, life force in all things vital. And he goes on, all these beings of hermits, I'm the wise Ushana, and who is Ushana? I can't remember Ushana. Don't forget the footnotes down here. It's always another name for Shukracharya, who is the guru of the demons, the Asuras. So Ushana is Shukracharya. Some of you may have heard his name. Okay. Indeed, there are no beings. Oh, let's go up a little bit. Let's see if we miss anything. I'm the rod of chastisement. I am political wisdom among those who desire conquest. You want to conquer the world, but you better have some, you better have strategy. You have to know how to conquer kingdoms. Of things secret, wasn't Alexander the Great a student of Aristotle? So, the idea is you need political intelligence, which you can develop by philosophy. In fact, there is a branch of that's political philosophy. Of things secret, I am silence, and of the wise, I am wisdom itself. I'm the seed of all beings. There are no beings moving or unmoving that exist or even could exist without me. God is everything. And then he says, look, there's no limit to my divine wonders. What I have declared to you is but a mere indication of my power. It's just a tiny little, nod to my power. You must understand, Arjuna, says Krishna, whatever is possessed of great wonder, opulence, or splendor has sprung from a mere fragment, an anksha of my greatness. Okay. Anything that's great here, right, of mountains and Himalaya, all the things he said, it's just a spark of my splendor. And what need is there, Arjuna, for so much knowledge? What all this talk about? With but a fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire world. This is just one of God's powers, this prakriti, from which creation emerges. Okay, so that is chapter 10, and I am going to go inside because it actually is getting a bit chilly. So this time I'm going to hit the pause button, not the stop button. Oops, where did it go? There. Okay, here we are, a bit warmer, and we continue with so with 32 minutes. Okay, so that must be the time of the recording. We continue with chapter 11, and off we go. Now this is well, let's see. I'm not going to say anything. Let the text talk for itself. So now Arjuna asked the question, let me, who are you? How can I know you? What kind of qualities do you have? And then that was chapter 10, right? Let's remind ourselves, how did that start? Chapter 10, he starts with saying, right? Did we say something? Because he asked the question. Oh, then it must have been the end of chapter. Oh, he didn't ask the question. Ask the question. How can I know you? Surely you did. Excuse me, forgive me. Arjuna, yeah. Please declare fully your divine wonders, right? So Arjuna asked that in verse 16, and then we had that whole litany of by which you abide in the worlds. How am I able to understand you? That's his question. And what forms am I able to think of you? So then you can think of God as the greatest in all categories of things, of mountains, the Himalayas, and so on, of the alphabet, the letter A. So these are just ways that the sort of limited Prakritic mind can think of God in a very elementary way. Of course, bhaktas of Krishna have actually meditate on Krishna's incarnations and the things he did while he was on earth, especially in his youth, the baby, the childhood of Krishna in Vraj, in Vrindavan, a very holy place in India today. By the way, we do Rutgers tours there. We do a 3-credit course to the land sacred to Krishna. And we haven't done it for the last 2 years because of COVID. I think, and we won't be doing it this Christmas, but we'll be picking that up again next year. So if anybody wants to do a 3-credit course, very inexpensive actually. In Rutgers, there's, whatever the price of a course is, you pay that, and then I don't know, maybe an airfare and some nominal, very very inexpensive fee for accommodation and stuff. And you stay in an ashram in a medieval holy town, Vrindavan. You can do some research. It's between Delhi and Agra, sacred to Lord Krishna. And anybody want any information of that, you can drop me an email. I can look into that. So we've been running it for now several years. We even had some students now in our MA program that are alumni of that, and you can also talk to students, the Rutgers students that have been on that if you're interested. So let's go to chapter 11. Okay, so that was Arjuna's question there, and now we ask another question here. Out of kindness, you proclaim the science of the soul, right? The Atma would be Adhyatma Samgnitam. So, Atma. Oh, here it is. Adhyatma Samgnitam. My illusion is now dispelled. Oh, lotus-eyed Krishna, why lotus eyes? Because Krishna is beautiful. How do you describe the beauty of God? You can't. Words fail. Words can only describe things known in the world, acritic things, material things. How do you describe the beauty of God? So one way the poets of India chose, they said, what's the most beautiful thing we do know, that we do have in this world? And they decided the lotus is the most exquisitely beautiful thing. So then they just, best we can do, if we wish to describe the beauty of God, which is undescribable, well, we will use the best we've got and hope for the best, and that's a lotus leaf. So lotus eyes, lotus feet, lotus hands, very common in descriptions of these forms of Ishvara. That's why sometimes Indian art, you see the eyes are a little bit, you can see the painting behind me. Just stop share. This is Orion from Orissa. But if you look, oops, probably not too clear, but the eyes are kind of shaped like lotuses. This is Krishna. All of these are all little pictures of Krishna when he was incarnating on earth. Here he's dancing with the gopis, and there he's a little mischievous little child stealing butter, and all the famous and beloved episodes of Krishna life. They're all on this big, huge Orion silk painting, hand painted, wonderful piece of art. So we go back to our screen share. Get that, get this. Okay, lotus eyed. So that's why you'll see this word lotus eyed. Not so much in the Gītā, but if you read the stories of Krishna, and I advise you to do so. I myself translated the whole of the Bhagavad Purana is the story of Krishna's life in the 10th book of the Bhagavad Purana. I myself translated it. Others have translated it. It's all available. And probably you can download it for free nowadays online. So if you're interested in not God as the teacher of the Gītā, but God's actual, life story. Life, not in a conventional sense like our life, but in the sense of incarnating and doing really cool things in the world of men and mortals and women, of course, mortals, as full of mortals. Then you can read the 10th book of the Bhagavata, not Bhagavad Gītā, but Bhagavata Purana. O Supreme Lord, highest person, all that you have declared is true. Now he says, okay, I've heard about your qualities, but now I desire to see your mighty form. Now, this is a very, be ready for this form. It's not like the ultimate form of God. It's just a form appropriate to a battlefield. God manifests forms appropriate to the situation. The different incarnations of different forms. So the Krishna of devotion is really baby Krishna and young Krishna and Gopi Krishna and Radha Krishna. But Arjuna is a warrior about, and it's about this awful war, ghastly war is about to ensue. So he wants to, what he calls a mighty war, what's Aishvaryam, a form of sort of battlefield related appropriate majesty, that mighty form. It's called the Virat Rupa. Oh Lord, master of all mysticism, if you think I can witness such a form, kindly show me your inexhaustible self, your eternal, inexhaustible. We get exhausted, our bodies get old like mine. And then you get tired, you get exhausted, and at the end of life, you're just barely making it. And then you die, right? Not God. God doesn't subject to those kinds of conditions. So Krishna said, okay, Arjuna, I mean, just satisfying his devotee. This is the beautiful thing about bhakti. Because, you know, when the bhakta is practicing and training to be 100% dedicated to God, then it's all the bhakta is following all the rules and regulations and controlling the senses and all the things that yogis do. But the bhakta yogi is doing it. Some yogis are just seeking the Atman, the self. They're not really interested in God. But the bhakta is doing everything, all that practice, all of training the mind to just think exclusively of God. But when you get to that 100%, exclusion, no more self-interest, no more self-desire, no more doing anything for yourself. Everything now is everything you're doing in the world is an offering to God. When you get to that point, then it flips. Then God serves the bhakta. Says, okay, now you've won me. You can win God, right? The text loves to say, the Bhagavad Purana, this other text, loves to play with the notion of the unconquerable one is conquered by the love of the devotee. So now Arjuna is on that level. 100%. So then now, Krishna, anything he asks, Krishna says, okay, I want to satisfy you as much as you want to satisfy me. So Krishna says, okay, behold hundreds and thousands of celestial forms, not just one, all with unlimited colors and shapes. God must be infinite, have unlimited, or infinite colors, infinite shapes, infinite qualities. What does it mean to be God, right? Omnipotent, omniscient. Well, we get that from our Western theologies, but in the Indian tradition, it's not just omnipotent, omniscient, but omniforms, omnibeautiful, omniqualities, omnishapes. So let's see what this looks like. He's saying none of us celestials have witnessed these marvels, never before seen. None of them have done. In one place you may observe, but the moving and non-moving worlds, Arjuna, everything. But remember, this is a special form for the battlefield. Don't think this is God's ultimate form, which is beautiful, of course. This is going to be a bit ghastly and horrific. Oh, Arjuna, view whatever you wish to see in my body, but you cannot. Now, notice this is very important here. You cannot perceive me with your present eyes, the prakritic eyes made of molecules and subatomic particles, neuron, whatever is in the eye. Can't see God with that. Can you see physical things with that? They're physical instruments designed to see physical things. Very straightforward in Indian notions of perception. So if you want to see something that's non-physical, you can't use that type of instrumentation. Right? Instruments have a function. Right? If you're like a submarine goes in the water, under the water, you can't use it to fly in the sky because it's made to go in the water. But then you need another type of instrument if you want to fly. So you can't perceive me with your present eyes, these instruments that perceive Prakriti. So I give you divine eyes. You need a different set of ocular equipment. And he gives Arjuna divine eyes. I wonder what the footnote is down here. Number 4. Divya eyes. Divya chakshu is literally a divine eye, singular. I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic wonders. Pasyame yogame ishvaram. My power. Aishvarya is power. Sanjaya. Now, Sanjaya is actually speaking the whole Gītā to the blind king. Dhritarashtra, the first verse of the Gītā, is Sanjaya's speaking. And so it's really a discussion between Sanjaya, the bard, the charioteer, of the blind king Dhritarashtra, who is the father of the army opposing the Pandavas. He's the uncle of the Pandavas and the father of the other side. And then Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra, well, Krishna says this and Arjuna said this. And so the whole Gītā is its conversation, but every so often we go out to the outer frame, which is Sanjaya talking to Dhritarashtra. Even though that conversation between Sanjay and Dhritarashtra, Sanjay is relaying to Dhritarashtra, reporting to Dhritarashtra what Krishna says in the inner frame of the Gītā. So Krishna then showed to the son of Pritha, that's Arjuna, that supreme majestic form. Arjuna saw endless mouths and eyes, unlimited wonderful sights, celestial ornaments, divine weapons raised on high, infinite faces staring in all directions. He saw that God adorned with divine garlands, celestial fragrances, garments and ointments, all full of wonder. In other words, he sees all qualities, all forms. The God is not devoid of qualities and forms. It makes no sense from a certain theistic point of view to say that this world is full of forms and qualities, and yet the cause of it has no forms and no qualities. How does that work? It's, from a certainly a Hindu theological point of view, the source of form and personality and qualities must also have form, personality of qualities, although perhaps divine ones, just like Plato's Shadows on the Cave, a bit like that actually. So with infinite faces staring in all directions, he saw that God with a big G, adorned with all of garlands, divine garlands, not made of our rose petals, which after 3 days they rot and stink. Celestial fragrances, garments and ointments, all full of wonder. Now, when Oppenheimer detonated the atomic bomb, I think it was in the 60s, for the first time, he quoted this verse. I don't know how he knew the Gītā. He quoted 2 verses from this chapter. Oppenheimer, the sort of father of the atomic bomb. And he quotes it when they actually conducted the experiment wherever it was, in some desert, maybe Nevada or somewhere, and we saw that mushroom cloud and that explosion. He quotes this: "If 1,000 suns at once rose into the sky, their brilliance still could not outshine the radiance of that exalted Ishvara, that great God, big G." Arjuna, son of Pandu, then beheld in the body of that God of gods, big G of the little G's, the whole universe standing as one, and yet divided as many. It's all within God, it's one, but within it there's all this variegatedness. Overwhelmed with amazement, hair standing on end out of fear and awe, right? It blew his mind so badly that he had these physiological symptoms, hair standing on end. Arjuna bowed, right, namaha, with folded hands, and spoke to that great God, right? Here we have, look, Kritanjali, Pranamya, namaha. This is that's how you greet that's how you offer your vocal respects to a divine being. Namaha, Om Namo Shivaya, Om Namo Narayana. Namo is namaha. Just because the Sanskrit rules, the namaha becomes namo. And now he sees in his body all the gods and host of beings, Brahma with a long A, seated on the lotus. He's also just like you and I, an Atman, but with super karma. The Atman that has the best karma gets to be Brahma, and he's kind of the creator of the form. So he's really like an engineer. And he's seated on the lotus. You'll see him in Indian pictures. He's got 4 heads. So you can see all directions. I see the sages and all celestial serpents. O Lord of the universe, on all sides and with infinite form, I see you with unlimited arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes. O universal form, I see you without beginning, middle, or end. You compass everything. Shimmering with dazzling radiance, you are adorned with crown, club, and disc. The Vishnu has 4 arms. And he holds a club and a disc and in 2. And then he holds a lotus and the conch shell and the other 2. He wears a crown. With blazing fire and the brilliance of immeasurable suns. So, we can't even look at our sun, right? We're not supposed to look at it because you'll lose your eyesight if you look at it. Imagine immeasurable suns. That's why Krishna says, you can't see me with your prakritic eyes. It'll just destroy your ocular equipment and destroy your mind. There's lots of references like that to the Old Testament. That prophets, couldn't see God. I mean, there's 1 or 2 references that there are certain prophets did see God, but for the most part, you can't. The body can't take it. You die. And this is kind of a common theme in Near Eastern theisms, not just the Abrahamic traditions. So, with blazing fire and the brilliance of immeasurable suns burning on all sides, you're difficult to behold, even though Arjuna has been given these divine eyes. He's been given special ocular equipment, special perceptive instruments. You're imperishable, the highest object of knowledge and the final resting place of this universe. In other words, when the universe dissolves, when all of the, what we might say now, gravitational forces and particles, everything, comes back, sort of returns to its core, what remains? Well, God. So you're the final resting place at the end of the universe. You are the immortal protector, everlasting Dharma. Remember chapter 4? Krishna says, when Dharma declines, I come, I incarnate. I accept you as the most ancient Purusha. I don't like this word, spirit. For Purusha, Purusho. I see you without beginning, middle, or end, with infinite power and unlimited arms. Your eyes are the sun and the moon. I see you with blazing fire issuing forth from your mouth and scorching this world with your effulgence. In all directions you pervade the heaven and earth, O great soul. The three worlds, right? Celestial, our mortal world, and the lower realms. They tremble upon seeing your wondrous and terrible form. Assemblies of divine beings, all of the celestials, enter into you. Everything comes from God and goes back to God. Out of fear, they praise you with folded hands. Namaha, Namaha, Namaha. The great sages and perfected beings cry out, peace to all, Shanti, Shanti. Where is it? Where does he say that? Grananti, Maharshi, Siddha Sangaha, Stuvanti. They Tvam Stutibhi, Pushkalabihi, Pushkalabi, Stutibi, they praise you for their chants. And then he mentions some celestial beings, the Rudras, Adityas, etc., etc. They all behold you and wonder. These are powerful celestial beings. O great armed Krishna, the whole world trembles as I do, seeing your monstrous form with unlimited mouths, eyes, arms, thighs, feet, with so many bellies and dreadful fangs. How about this is Ishvara with a vengeance. Right, this is the end of our course now. We've been looking at Ishvara and, Brahman is just like the intelligent principle, understated. And, and really, the Vedanta is about establishing that there is Brahman, there is intelligence, and situating that discussion in the sacred texts. And then we have the, logicians who, the Nyaya arguing, debating with the Jains and the Buddhists, just whether there's an Ishvara or not in the first place. No point talking about what Ishvara looks like and the forms and qualities of Ishvara if you don't accept Ishvara in the first place. You first have to establish there is an Ishvara. So we did all that work, and then we saw yoga, where Ishvara now not so much trying to defend, except, just what's the role of Ishvara in giving you the knowledge of your own self? What's the role of Ishvara in giving you enlightenment of the self? Now, remember, bhaktas don't just want realization of the self. They, in addition to that, they pick that up maybe along the way, but they really want, what they really want is a vision of God. O Vishnu, O Lord, my soul trembles seeing you touching the sky, blazing with many colors and mouths, wide open with burning eyes. I can find no steadiness or tranquility. It's freaking him out. He's not having a good time. He's having a bad trip here. Later on, you'll see, he tells Krishna, please stop, go back to your other form. Because this form of majesty destroys love. So therefore, and God wants love. God, the nature of God is love. So God and that love is a quality, is an emotion, is an experience that's shared between two. Not self-love. You can be blissfully. You can experience bliss in your own self, but love requires two. The word love. Priti in Sanskrit and in English. It's not just a quality that exists autonomously. It's a quality that manifests in a certain type of relationship between at least two. So therefore, God has to cover this majesty if he wants to experience that, because this is terrifying. Look at it. I can find no steadiness or tranquility, no shanti. He's not having a good time. Look. Shamam, right? Dhritim na vindami shamam cha. I don't find any shanti, sham. I've lost my composure. I can find no peace seeing your dreadful fangs and mouths like the fire of death. Oh God is God, shelter of the world, be merciful to me. He says, stop. Arjuna asked for it. He gets it. Now he says, oh, sorry. Can we stop this show here? I see all the sons of all the warriors on the battlefield, the sons of Dhritarashtra, the opposing army, including Karna, the charioteer's son, along with Bhishma. These are great, powerful warriors. Bhishma is the grandfather, fantastic figure. Karna is my favorite in Mahabharata. He's such a hero, a kind of tragic hero, what the Greeks would call a tragic hero. He's my favorite. He's so wonderful. And he ends up on the other side just because, strokes of misfortune. His mother abandoned him at birth, and then Dhritarashtra gave him shelter, but he's so honorable. And, he's born with, he's the son of the sun god. He's born with that armor, and then Indra, who's Arjuna's father, because everybody knows Karna could defeat Arjuna. And the celestial Indra, father of Arjuna, he knows that. So Karna, being such a great soul, Indra pretends to be a Brahmin, takes the form of a Brahmin, right? And if a Brahmin goes to Brahmin, the priestly caste, intellectual class, if a Brahmin approaches the warrior caste and asks for something, the warrior just gives it. That's the Vedic culture. So he takes the guise of a Brahmin, and Karna knows he's in disguise. But still, he comes as a Brahmin and he says, give me your armor. He just slices it off his skin. Invincible armor given by his own celestial. What a great soul. He gives it to him. Take it. That's the attitude of the warrior. I know you're a fake Brahmin. Take it. You want it? I'll give it to you just because of the Dharma of the Kshatriya. That makes my heart firm. Karna's my favorite. And Bhishma is wonderful too. Grandfather. What a character. Drona's the guru of both sides, and Bhishma is the grand uncle actually of both sides. But anyway, there they all are, rushing headlong into your mouths, all the kings and warriors, which are dreadful with terrifying fangs. Some are seen crushed between your teeth with heads smashed. This is grotesque and ghastly. This is Bhayankara Rasa, for those of you from the other course. Bhayankara, terrifying. As great rivers flow headlong into the sea, so these heroes of mankind enter your blazing mouths. As moths dash full speed into the blazing fire, so all these worlds enter headlong into your mouths to their final destruction. They're all going to, because obviously God is time, is creation. We talk about God as creation, but also God, what at the end of creation, all things come to an end. God is also time. This is the end of creation. Oh, Lord of Lords, who are you with such terrible form? Which of your many, he has beautiful forms. What is this terrible form? Oh, we missed one. Your flaming mouths voraciously lick at these worlds from all sides as time, consuming everything. You scorch this entire universe with your radiance and terrible splendor. Who are you with such terrible form? I bow before you. Namaha. No, notice his love is destroyed. Bhakti cannot nourish when God manifests his majesty. So God covers it by Yoga Maya. We'll be looking at that at the end of this semester. God covering his majesty. Pay attention to this. Listen carefully. Yoga Maya, definitely be on the final exam. Yoga Maya is the power. There's regular Maya, which is illusion. And that's a bad thing, right? We want to get out of illusion and realize I'm an Atman, I'm not this body, mind, and there's a God. That's regular Maya. But yoga brings us to God. What's Yoga Maya then? It is when God covers his majesty. So the bhakta, the devotee, can have an intimate relationship. We'll see the stories at the end of the semester next week. His mother she really thinks she's my son. His friends, they really think, Krishna's pretty cool, but he's just my buddy. That kind of intimacy. How can you do that with God, who's really like this? His time, his death, his creation. Well, he has to hide all of that. And how does he hide that? What is the Shakti? What is the power by which he hides that? Yoga Maya. Okay, so we'll revisit that. If you didn't get all that, I just want to put a first layer of information into your theological theory into your minds, and we'll revisit that. So what is your mission? So who are you with terrible form? I bow before you. Be merciful. You're the primal one. What is your mission? And this is the second verse. Oppenheimer quoted when I mentioned when the first atomic explosion took place, and he was behind. They were in some kind of glass, protected space, and they were watching explosion taking place in the desert. He quoted the previous verse and this one. Time I am. Krishna replies, Arjuna says, who are you? What is your mission? Time I am, destroyer of worlds. I have come here to annihilate all beings. Even without you, all the warriors situated on opposite sides shall be destroyed, right? You don't want to fight? Don't fight. They're going to be destroyed anyway, because that's my mission. Destroy all beings. And of course, you can say, why would God want to do that? That's another story. Actually, what has happened in the Gītā is the demons are hiding out in India. And they've taken birth as great kings. The demons from celestial realms, there's good celestials and bad celestials called asuras. And they have taken birth as the kings of India, and they need to be removed because they're creating havoc on earth. And so earth goes to Vishnu and says, look, these demoniac kings are creating havoc and they're creating a burden. We need divine help. The celestials, so then Vishnu says, don't worry, I'll incarnate. And therefore, all of these kings on the battlefield are those demoniac entities. So that's why they all have to be killed. So it seems like we could use an incarnation now, right? With all of the kind of, people that are, just destroying our planet with just unrestricted consumer capitalism. Arise and seize your glory, Arjuna. He said, whether you fight or not, they're all dead. So but better you fight and seize your glory, because anyway, they're going to die. Conquer these enemies, enjoy a flourishing kingdom. I have destroyed them all, or Arjuna. You just can be my instrument, or not, free will, but become my instrument. They're already gone. I've already destroyed Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the great warriors. Do not hesitate, slay them, fight, and you will conquer your enemies in battle. Hearing these words of Krishna, the crowned Arjuna, the crowned one, spoke in a stammering voice. He's terrified with folded hands, trembling and bowing in fear. Arjuna said, oh, Rishikesha, the world rightly rejoices and delights in hearing your fame. The demons flee in all directions, and the perfected beings offer you namaha, namaha. So your God, that's how it should be. Oh, great soul, why should they not bow before you? Of course they should. You are the greater even than Brahma, the little creator. You're the first creator. You create Prakriti. Vishnu creates Prakriti, matter itself. And then Brahma, the creator, takes that pre-existing Prakriti and makes the forms of the universe. So it's secondary. It's like an engineer. I think of him as an engineer. But you, Vishnu, the first creator, you create matter itself. Oh, unlimited one, Lord of lords, Ishvara. The word Ishvara is all over the place. Okay, of course, there's Ishvara. And here, where is it? It's not there. Oops. But the Isha is there, and that's another form. So you are that supreme being. And there's different names for Ishvara, obviously. Ishvara is the one that's favored in philosophical discourse. You're the Lord of Lords, resting place of the world. You're unchangeable. You're beyond both what is permanent and impermanent. Right? And what is it? Sat and Asat. So the souls are Sat, they're eternal. But the forms of Prakriti are Asat, they're not eternal. Forms made of matter. You're the primeval God, the most ancient person. You are the supreme shelter of this universe. You are the knower. You're the object, you're Noah, the object of knowledge, and the object of knowledge. And he could have added the instruments of knowledge as well. You were the one who knows, the instruments by which knowledge is attained, and you're the objects of knowledge. But he just mentions the knower and the object. With unlimited forms, God has to be unlimited. You pervade this entire universe. Why should there not be forms for God? They're not limitations, because there's unlimited forms, and the forms themselves are unlimited. You're the winds, you're the supreme controller, you're fire, water, and moon. We already had that in the previous chapter. You're the first progenitor and the great grandfather. I bow before you 1,000 times. Anantarupam. Namo namaha, namo namaha, namo namaha. Respect to you from the front, from behind, right? Namaha, namaha, namaha. There, namostute. Purashtad ata. Prishtahas. Te namaha. Let there be namaha from the front, from behind, everywhere. From all sides, oh, one of unlimited power and of unmeasured strength. You complete all things, therefore you are all things. Now he starts apologizing. But for previously, when they were cousins hanging out, they were great friends, they went everywhere together. Whatever I've said without knowing, Your greatness. I was, before he saw this, have this vision of God, thinking of you as my companion. I thought you were my cousin, Krishna, and saying out of love of madness, oh, Krishna, oh, you're the old friend. Now he's asking apologies. I asked you for forgiveness. I didn't know who you really were. Whatever I've done improperly out of jest, while playing or resting or sitting or eating, either alone or in the presence of others, oh, Achyuta, immeasurable one, I beg your forgiveness. You see, his love is, the vision of God's majesty destroys love. Keep this in mind. And if you keep this in mind, you'll understand the last reading of our semester, the Bhagavad Purana. Got to keep in mind. If we see God's, and the same in the Old Testament, we see God's majesty, that creates distance and fear and terror, and you just get overwhelmed with awe. It doesn't encourage or allow intimacy. You want to be intimate with God, God has to cover his majesty. Keep that in mind. Power by which God, write this down, covers his majesty is Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya, you'll see it in the reading next week. You're the father of the world, right? Krishna is God the Father, not God the Son or God of anything else. He's God the Father according to the Gītā. You're the God the Father of all beings moving and non-moving, matter and spirit. You're its worshipful and most venerable teacher. He's the guru too. Remember Patanjali, he's the guru. Where does it say that in the text? Let's have a look. Oh my goodness, look at this. It's got all screwed up as well. Can't even read it. Right. You are the guru, the teacher, most venerable, 43. I just want to see if you use the term guru or not. So I'm going to use my trusty little falling apart, actually. Just quickly see if the word guru is in the Sanskrit, 43, and it's verse 43. You're the guru, father, most venerable guru. Yeah, guru. Remember Patanjali says Ishvara's guru. Oh, immeasurable Lord, how can anyone be greater? Most worshipable Lord, I bow before you. I beg mercy. Please forgive me for being intimate before. I didn't know you were. And I, as a father forgives the son, as a friend forgives the companion, as a lover forgives the beloved. Forgive me for being intimate with you, for not knowing who you were. I'm thrilled seeing this form. I don't know if thrilled is a great word, but terrified, more like it. Krishito, meaning my hair stands on it. I'm seeing this form has never been seen before. But in fear, my heart trembles. He's terrified. Oh Lord, show me your human-like form as before. He wants him to go back to the form he loves and can be intimate with and dedicate his heart to, not this horrific form. Oh Lord of Lords, Ishvara, right? Let's see if Ishvara is used here. Deva, maybe. It's probably Deva. Where are we? 5. Lord of Lords. Yeah, Devesha. Isha, it's the same. Isha is exactly the same as Ishvara. Ishvara is the Vara, the best of the Ishas. Isha means Lord, and Ishvara means best of the Lord. They mean the same thing. 1,000-armed form of the universe. I desire to see you as before, adorned with crown, club, and with disc in hand. Please assume that forearm form. That's a Vishnu form. Vishnu forearms, Krishna 2 arms. So Krishna says, oh Arjuna, through my power of yoga, I have happily shown you the supreme form. After all, Arjuna asked, which is he's just satisfying his request. It is splendorous, it is universal, and it is primal. You're right. And then he says, not by the Vedas. You can't see this by studying in Vedas, nor by sacrifices, nor by great study, nor by charity, nor by great rituals, nor by severe austerities am I to be seen in such a form, O hero. Other than you, no one has seen this form. Only bhakti. Only through bhakti, which Arjuna's a great bhakta, asks, yeah, immediately. But not through your own power, study or austerity. No, you can't conquer God like that. God is only conquered by love. And then you ask him, God says, all right, here you are. Have a look. Here's my form. Otherwise, nothing you can do. No sacrifices, no Vedas. Can't force God to reveal himself. Do not be in anxiety. Do not feel bewildered seeing this terrible form. Let your fear be gone. Let your heart be glad. Behold my previous form. And he goes back to his human-like form. Sanjay, and this is the bard again, talking to Dhritarashtra. Speaking to Arjuna, the son of Vasudeva, the exalted Krishna once again assumed his natural form. This pleasing appearance of Krishna consoled Arjuna. And Arjuna can now go back to his previous state of mind, which is love of God, rather than fear of God. Big difference, my friends. Arjuna says, seeing your pleasing human-like form, O Krishna, I've now regained my composure. And remember, he loves God. He'll do, he's just a great bhakta, he's a topmost bhakta. And I've been restored to my normal state of devotion and friendship. And the form you have, Krishna says again, this form you have seen is indeed difficult to behold. Even the gods, small gods, constantly desire to see this form. And he says it again, not by Vedic study, not by austerities, not by charity, nor even by ritual worship can I be seen as you have seen me, right? He just said that here. Not the Vedas, not the sacrifice. Interesting, he repeats it, repeat something you're emphasizing. Not by any of your means that you can engage in through your own power and ego. Like study, I'm going to find God through study. Austerity, like, I'm going to do concentrate, God will appear before me. None of that. Great charity, giving away your whole kingdoms. Not by great rituals we see God. O scourge of the enemy, nevertheless, it is possible to know me as I am. How? I can be approached by unalloyed devotion. Unalloyed means 100%, not 50-50, not that it's a 50% God, 50% me, not 75-25%, my friends, not even 99%, 100%. And my teacher would always say, my teacher couldn't speak English. He basically spoke Sanskrit, but very high Hindi. He would always say about us as disciples, he was a Babaji in Vrindavan, and he would say, "Aap log sab 50-50 wale hai, aisa kuch nahi milta hai." 50-50. That was the only English word he knew was 50-50. He didn't have any teeth, so he'd go 50-50, 50-50. He would say, you're all 50-50. You want 50% for you, and then 50% you do your practices and you seek God. Aisa kuch nahi milta hai. You won't get anything like that. He would say, it has to be 100%. Aap log, you people, sab 50-50 wale hai. You're all 50-50 people. You only want to give 50-50. See, here it says unalloyed. Got to be 100%. And what's the word for unalloyed in Sanskrit? Bhakti ananya, ananya, no other. Anya means other. Here, anya, if you can read the Sanskrit, otherwise the English. And means not. With no other. Not that 50 me, 50 God, so 50 other, 50 God, and 50 for something else. No. 50 for my kids, 50 for my parents, 50 for... No. 100% is if one wants to get a vision of God, essentially, 100%. So, O son of Pandu, that person alone comes to me who performs all work on my behalf, 100%, who is intent upon me. Everything you do is for God, nothing more for me. Who is my devotee, free of attachment, and who is without malice. This is how we can seek God. All right, so that's the end of the chapter, okay? So how are we doing? So 1 hour, 12 minutes, fantastic. And I wanted to share one verse with you, which is not actually on the list. It's not on the syllabus, but it's at the end of chapter 14. Because the question may be, well, what's the relationship between Ishvara and Brahman? That some of you are not even clear yet. Remember, for Ramanuja, Ishvara is Brahman. And for Shankara, Brahman is impersonal and Ishvara is Brahman, but only in conventional reality. But the Gītā says, I am the foundation of Brahman. Remember, we had that other verse that Krishna says, let's go back to that other verse. That was in chapter 3. That was in this one. And I'll have to find it. It was in the previous chapter 10. Give me a second. I think it's important enough to take a minute. And I'm sorry I didn't write this down. Where he says something about being the second. Where he says that he's the support of Brahman. I don't find it in the next 2 minutes. Not 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Pick it up here. Arjuna says, you are the supreme Brahman. The supreme Brahman. the highest abode, not some conventional mirage Ishvara. You're the supreme Brahman. Okay, now we go back to here. Krishna says, I am the foundation of Brahman. Brahman rests on God, which is immortal and imperishable, and which is the basis of eternal dharma and perfect happiness. All right, my friends. So here, this is now we see Ishvara in a very different, not just philosophers arguing about whether there is, there isn't, there is, there isn't. And not even Vedanta, which is trying to make sense of the Upanishads and trying to sort of, and trying to find Brahman as being the ultimate message of the Upanishads, as the intelligent cause of creation, but not very much information, nothing about forms. And we do get in the Shvetashvatara, remember, Shiva says it was the triad, so definitely along the lines of Ramanuja, the Shvetashvatara, that there was God and the soul and the world. And that's a form of Ishvara, Shiva, Rudra. The word term Shiva doesn't come in it, but Rudra, Hara, that later do become names of Shiva, they are in the Shveta, so we met that, and then and so forth. All right, so now we see, Ishvara in the famous of all the forms of Ishvara, and of course the Krishna traditions would say Krishna is the supreme form. The other Ishvara, Shiva, Vishnu, they all emanate from Krishna. He's the ultimate causal form. So that would be the Krishna position. The Vishnu position is, Vishnu is Krishna, but Vishnu is the ultimate form. And Krishna is when Vishnu wants to, or incarnates, and he incarnates as Rama and Krishna. So slight difference there. And of course, the Shaiva traditions say, yes, Vishnu is the creator, but actually Shiva is the ultimate cause. So that's what makes the difference in the traditions. It's not that they reject each other's Ishvaras. They just say the difference between the Vishnu sex and the Shiva sex and the Krishna sex and the goddess sex, for that matter. It's goddess sex. The difference is not that they say, oh, that other form is a false form or a false god or something. No, except God has that Ishvara has infinite forms. The question is, who is there? God say the origin, because they're all eternal forms, but which form sustains the others? The difference, because origin means there's a point in time when the others didn't exist, and then they originate. Like in the Christians, we'll call creatio ex nihilo. Creations. The Christians say that the soul is created from nothing. The Indian traditions say no. If you can create from nothing, then you can destroy. Then the soul can be destroyed. It's not eternal. Then they would say these are all eternal, all the forms of Ishvara and Atman and Prakriti also. So it's not that there was an origin story in that sense, cyclical creation, but the entire sequence of cyclical creativity of eternal things. It's cyclical creativity of eternal ingredients. They may come together in cyclical kind of in cyclicality. The souls in the world, but the souls themselves and the ingredients of matter eternal. They just come together, and then we call that creation, and it lasts billions of years, and then it dissolves, and we call that dissolution. Then they lie in a latent state. They don't disappear, vanish. So in that sense, God is eternal, the souls are eternal, the world is eternal. So the issue is, what sustains it? And the Vaishnavas say Vishnu is sustaining it all eternally. On the power of Vishnu, they are resting in the power of Vishnu. The Krishna traditions will say, actually it's Krishna. Vishnu is a secondary form, not the primary form, not the sustaining form. And the Shiva and the Shaivas would say it was Shiva. So that's what distinguishes the various sects of Hinduism. Okay, so this is real life Hinduism on the ground. If you go to India, those of you from South India know from India, not South India, but anywhere in India, you know very well. If you go looking for Hinduism, where do you go? You go to a temple. What's in the temple? A form of Ishvara. That's real life Hinduism. That's the Hinduism of 5% of, I don't know, I make the figure up. The vast majority of practitioners of Ishvara worship. Ishvara worship in India is the worship of Shiva and Vishnu, Krishna, and other forms, Ram Bhaktas, and the great goddess Durga, Kali, especially in Bengal, Kali, one ferocious form. Her form is a bit like what we saw in chapter 11, ferocious form. She has 16 arms or 8 arms, different forms. She wears a garland of skulls, tongues, So that's meant to represent, for the bhaktas, she's not horrific. For her bhaktas, she's mother. She's just reminding them, Don't be attached to this world. The world is death. Die. Don't get attached. So, she's giving them this sort of message that life is horrific. Old age is not fun. Death is not fun. So be smart. Don't try to find happiness in the world. Don't try to find your meaning and purpose in the things of the world. Find them in the Atman and seeking God. So that's the message of Kali. So there's all of these forms have some powerful message that they portray. Krishna, especially the love of God. Vishnu's majesty, they all have their own unique qualities and so forth. All right, but this is real life Hinduism. That's my point. Okay, and hopefully you are getting some sense of that. So we meet again. We'll have another session on the Bhagavad Gita, and then we go into the text that I've worked with. I've translated in at least 2 or 3 publications. I've translated the 10th book of the Bhagavatam for Penguin Classics, if you want the whole story. My recent book was, Bhakti Yoga and featuring the Bhagavatam. So we'll be looking at some of that. That Krishna, after the Gita, one more session of the Gita, then Krishna's actual, when he incarnates, what did that look like? We don't get that information in the Gita, now he's an adult speaking on the battlefield. But what about when he was playing the role of a little child? We'll be looking at that Krishna to end the course and really bringing it to a place of not just intellectual debate, but to real life devotional practice. What does that look like? Okay, my friends, I hope everybody has got something out of this course. I know it's been challenging. I hope this last bit is a little bit more. I hope it's more meaningful for you and more user-friendly, perhaps. Okay, have a great day, evening. Hope you all did great in the quiz. I'll find out the scores later tomorrow morning, probably, from Laura. Take care.